Monza Autodrome, the most historic, in fact the oldest motor racing circuit in the world, and the scene of round 13 of this year's 15-round World Championship Formula One series. The last in Europe this year, incidentally, because the last two events in the series are going to be in Canada and in America. And Monza is a circuit that is absolutely steeped in motor racing tradition and history. It's been the scene of wonderful battles from some of the greatest drivers in the greatest cars. There you see the circuit, and going round it, the greatest motor racing driver of all time, the legendary Argentinian Juan Manuel Fangio, driving a Lancia Ferrari, 5 times world champion, past winner of the Italian Grand Prix, and at 70 years of age he's come to make a wonderful appearance before the Italian tifosi, the people who are so fanatical about their motor racing. And there is Juan Manuel in that distinctive scarlet 2.5 litre V6 Lancia Ferrari with the very distinctive side pods. In fact, almost the predecessor of today's racing cars in that sense, although the engine is in front of the driver. And out of the last right-hander on this circuit, which is 3.6 miles long, comes Fangio, and now we see a complete contrast, today's racing cars and today's drivers. There, René Arnoux' turbocharged V6 Renault with the very special engine, although it's based on a production engine. And René Arnoux has been fastest again in practice. There's the World Championship table, and as you see, Reutemann and Piquet are tying for the lead in the World Championship, just 11 points ahead of Jacques Laffite. There is Carlos Reutemann, who's the man tying with Piquet. Reutemann has had a wonderful season, the Argentine driver, like Juan Manuel Fangio, his countryman, who is here to see Reutemann. And there in the Saudi Leyland Tag Williams is the man who depends so much on doing well in this race, hopefully to keep his lead in the World Championship. Reutemann's not getting any younger. He's driven in more Grand Prix than anyone else in this race, and he must be nearing the end of his career. Here, however, is somebody who is right at the beginning of his Grand Prix career, Alain Prost, third fastest in his turbocharged Renault, the man who has already won Grand Prix this year in France and the last one in Holland. Jacques Laffite, another Frenchman, but this time a man in a Talbot Matra car, and Laffite has won 5 Grand Prix in his career, and he's 4th fastest in practice. There's a sign of the times, a man in complete firefighting outfit with the extinguisher on his back and special overalls. 5th fastest in practice, Alan Jones, the reigning world champion, driving with a broken little finger, incidentally. And there, Nelson Piquet shares the lead in the World Championship with Carlos Reutemann. John Watson, the winner of the British Grand Prix in his Marlboro MP4, and Didier Pironi in one of the very distinctive Scarlet Ferrari turbocharged cars, 8th fastest in practice. The umbrellas were up because of the heat. It's very, very humid here. And here are the cars coming out of the Parabolica at the end of their warm-up lap and leading the cars up to the grid. The fastest man in practice, René Arnoux. Behind him, in the yellow and white Renault, is Alain Prost. In the background, in the blue Talbot, is Jacques Laffite. And there is Carlos Reutemann. Now, the start is going to be something very much to see, because the turbocharged cars are usually slower getting away than the normally aspirated cars, and Carlos Reutemann's car with the Ford V8 engine in it should be quicker away from the line, and if he can get up to the Retificio first, that's the series of left and right bends at the chicane, he will be in a good position to lead the race. There's the grid. And now watch the lights. The red will come on, and then between 4 and 7 seconds afterwards will go the green, and the 52-lap, 187-mile Italian Grand Prix of 1981 will be on. Watch for the green. go, and it's a beautiful start. Prost and Arnoux away as one, and Arnoux tucks into the slipstream of Alain Prost, and he's through up to the Retificio, the left and right-hander, and Alain Prost is in the lead with Arnoux behind him, with Reutemann third, with Pironi fourth, with Lafitte fifth, with Jones sixth, with Bruno Giacomelli in seventh place, Piquet eighth, Villeneuve ninth, and Reutemann is trying to take Arnoux, and he's done it. Reutemann up into second place as they go round the Curva Grande. So, as they come towards us, it's Prost leading, Reutemann second, and Pironi goes through and takes Arnoux and third position. The Ferrari up into third position. Down to fourth place goes Arnoux. Reutemann is right up alongside Pironi, and Pironi has got the opportunity now as they go round the two Lesmo bends to use all the power of the Ferrari. He's right behind Reutemann in second position. Arnoux is still fourth, Lafitte is fifth, Jones is sixth, Giacomelli is seventh, and Nelson Piquet is in eighth place. Pironi right up alongside Reutemann. He's going to go through, and he does so, and you can hear the crowd roar in the background. The Italians are going wild with excitement because one of their idols, Pironi in the Ferrari, is up into second place. Now, can he do anything about the turbocharged Renault of Alain Prost as the Frenchman comes down the long straight from the Ascari bend and into the Parabolica at the end of lap one? Already, Alain Prost, after a superb start, has got... Look at the lead he's got as he completes the first lap. It's the Renault of Prost. Then it's Pironi. Reutemann is in third position. Arnoux is in fourth place. There is Prost coming up to the Retificio. And he's on his own already. Lap 2, 52-lap race. Pironi second, Reutemann third, Arnoux fourth, Jones fifth, Lafitte sixth, Gilles Villeneuve in the second turbocharged Ferrari in seventh place. The Italian Grand Prix is on with a vengeance, and the Frenchman, Prost, double Grand Prix winner already, is out on his own. And just watch, it's turbocharged car in the lead, Renault. Turbocharged car second, Ferrari. And the turbos are really going well. Lap 2, Reutemann with two Grand Prix victories behind him already, leading the World Championship ahead of Piquet, who's sharing the World Championship lead with him. Round they go up towards the Roggia, the second of the three chicanes. That leads up to the Lesmo bends, the two tremendously fast right-handers, and Lafitte is starting to come up through the field now. Look at the bunch behind Pironi. It's Reutemann third, Arnoux fourth, Lafitte fifth, Jones sixth, Villeneuve seventh, and they stream through. That is Andrea De Cesaris that we're looking at. Ahead of him, Derek Daly, well up in ninth position. Down to the Parabolica again they come. Lap 2. Prost, Pironi, Reutemann, Arnoux, Lafitte, Jones, Villeneuve, Piquet, Giacomelli, De Angelis and John Watson. End of lap 2. Long, long way to go. But the turbocharged Renaults are proving themselves now not only to be beautifully handling cars, but beautifully fast cars as well. Pironi goes through in second position, and Villeneuve is taking Jones, and Watson and Giacomelli are right up now as they go through. There's Jean-Pierre Jarier in the background with Salazar and Borgood. And on lap 3, Alain Prost has now got a very considerable cushion between himself and Pironi, and Reutemann is crowding the rear wing of Pironi's Ferrari. Reutemann in third place, Arnoux holding on. I remember in Holland, Prost chose different tyres to Arnoux, and he proved to have chosen the right type because he was able to get away and stay away, and it looks as though the same thing may have happened now, because René Arnoux in a car that's just as fast as the race leader, there is Prost, is not being able to do anything at all about Reutemann in front of him, and Pironi is pulling away in second position. Jacques Lafitte right behind Arnoux in the blue Matra. There's Villeneuve, and Villeneuve is ahead of Alan Jones, who is leading Giacomelli, who is just ahead of Nelson Piquet. This is lap 3. Gilles Villeneuve in the second Ferrari, up into sixth position. Pironi, Reutemann, Arnoux, Lafitte, Villeneuve, Jones, Giacomelli, Piquet, there's John Watson through. In the orange car is Patrese, then Jarier, then Salazar, then Slim Borgard. In the background, Brian Henton. And I failed to mention earlier on that Brian Henton in the Tolman has qualified for a Grand Prix for the first time this year. And with Arnoux, with Prost well on his way, Arnoux now in third position. René Arnoux right up behind Pironi, so Arnoux has got ahead of Reutemann. A terrific battle, but all the time, as that's one of the Brabhams, that's Hector Ribac out. Hector Ribac at this early stage of the race is out, and René Arnoux is making his challenge now. He's going to go for second place with Prost pulling away all the time. There's the Frenchman. Didier Pironi in, if you like, a mobile chicane, because that's what the Ferrari is these days. A wonderful engine, but an evil handling motor car is holding up everybody behind him and allowing Alain Prost to break away. There's Prost. Now look back along the track. Pironi, third Arnoux, fourth Reutemann, who's got Lafitte right behind him. Then Gilles Villeneuve. The two Ferraris are still in the first six. There's Giacomelli 7th, Jones down to 8th, Piquet 9th, Watson 10th, De Angelis in 11th place, and Derek Daly in 12th position in the march. Now down the long straight again. Watch him go all the way there around that long right-hander at the Parabolica with the banked part of the old circuit in the background. There it is in the top of your picture. Is René Arnoux in third position going to be able to get past? And he's trying. René Arnoux is trying to get past Didier Pironi, and he's done it. Up into second place, we've got the familiar situation now of a turbocharged Renault leading, a turbocharged Renault in second place, because René Arnoux, the man who won 2 Grand Prix last year, 1980, when Jean-Pierre Jabouille was his teammate, is now up into second position. And now we'll start to wonder whether the Renaults are going to be reliable, because that's the only thing that's going to stop them. Prost has broken away. Arnoux has fought his way through from 5th to 4th, from 4th to 3rd, from 3rd to 2nd, and he's ahead of Pironi 3rd. There's the red Ferrari. The blue Talbot of Jacques Lafitte in 4th position. And the Williams are not doing as well as we expected them to. Carlos Reutemann, where is he? Look for him. He's behind Jacques Lafitte, so he's in 5th place. Gilles Villeneuve is still in 6th position. Bruno Giacomelli has moved up to 7th. Down to 8th has gone number 1, world champion Alan Jones. And the fastest lap so far, Alain Prost, 1 minute 38.98 seconds, and that's about 3 seconds outside the lap record, which is held by Clay Regazzoni in the Williams from 2 years ago, because last year the Italian Grand Prix was held at Imola. Another lap completed. Across the line, on his own, Alain Prost. And the crowd is not looking too happy. Yes, they are, because as Arnoux goes through, the battle for 3rd continues now between Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. Jacques Lafitte, and Lafitte is through. Lafitte is up into 3rd position ahead of Pironi. In 5th position still, Carlos Reutemann, so he's in the World Championship points. Arnoux, now just look at how beautifully stable that Renault is, and look at the battle between Pironi and Lafitte for 3rd position. The Frenchman in front, 2 Frenchmen, Jacques Lafitte in the Talbot 12-cylinder Matra-powered car, weaving about on the circuit to prevent Pironi from getting past just there, but he doesn't need to do that anymore, he's broken away. 3rd position, Jacques Lafitte. John Watson goes through. There's De Angelis. Derek Daly's still well up. And the weather's overcast. It's very, very humid. And Villeneuve's blown his engine. Look at that. A great puff of smoke. That's had a flame at the back. That means the turbo's gone. Gilles Villeneuve is out of the Italian Grand Prix, and there'll be tears all round the circuit, almost literally, because Villeneuve really is the darling of the Italian crowd, even more than his teammate Didier Pironi. He has clearly blown one of the two turbo units atop his V6 Ferrari engine, and that means that he will only be able to tour around, and I expect him to go into the pits. There is Villeneuve, and a great puff of flame again from the turbo. And so from sixth position, Gilles Villeneuve is going to go out of the race, and that means to say that Bruno Giacomelli will come up onto the leaderboard, although there's a tremendous scrap behind him. There is Villeneuve into the pits. Well, we can now see him, I'm sure, get out of his car, and he will be a very, very unhappy man. It's said that Villeneuve is getting a bit fed up with Ferrari, but there's Pironi in the second Ferrari, and it's all down to him now to uphold Ferrari prestige. If there's one thing that an Italian spectator at Monza wants to see, it is a Ferrari doing well, and they're not doing well enough to satisfy the Italian crowd at the moment. Villeneuve out, and as you see, Didier Pironi from that caption on lap 9 in fourth position, behind Reutemann, Arnoux, race leader Prost, and ahead of the fifth and sixth men, Jacques Laffite and Alan Jones. And Prost is leading by nearly 6 seconds from his teammates. See how fast they go, 160 miles an hour on this point of the circuit as they come out of the Ascari bend on the chicane into the Parabolica. Arnoux there in second position. Behind him, Carlos Reutemann is third, Alan Jones is fourth, Nelson Piquet is fifth now. Behind Nelson Piquet, down to sixth position, has gone Didier Pironi. In seventh place, there's Bruno Giacomelli. Behind Giacomelli, eighth is Watson. Ninth is Daly, number 17. 10th, down to 10th position has gone Jacques Laffite. Then it's Elio De Angelis, 11th, followed by Patrick Tambay in 12th position in the second of the two Talbot Matras. Alan Jones there, fourth. Piquet, fifth. And this is really exciting because we have got the two joint leaders of the World Championship now very, very close to each other. Nelson Piquet, who is leading the World Championship with Carlos Reutemann, and in fourth position in the championship is Alan Jones, who is splitting them. There's the World Championship leader, Reutemann, through in the Williams. Watch for the second white car, but you won't see that because somebody's off, and it's Slim Borgood on lap 10, and Jacques Laffite out. He'd obviously been in trouble, and look, he's got a puncture. His left rear tyre is punctured, and that explains why he was only in 10th position when we last saw him going at racing speed. I suspect his tyre had overheated and blown. Now you see there's a cable stretching across your screen. That cable is, the car has gone off at the Ascari bend. There's a cable and a winch at the end of it, and it's wet. I can see wet streaming up from the tyres. And did you see the way Arnoux' car wagged? Now this is amazing because on my side of the circuit, which is just here, I'm overlooking Prost the leader and Arnoux in second place as they go through and complete a lap. And Jones is through. Jones in the background has moved up into third position ahead of Carlos Reutemann as they exited the Parabolica. So the world champion is in third position. Carlos Reutemann and Nelson Piquet are fourth and fifth. Didier Pironi in the white helmet is sixth. Bruno Giacomelli is seventh. John Watson behind them is in eighth position, and Derek Daly in the march is still ninth. And this is really significant because all the competitors, of course, are on slick tyres. That is to say, smooth treaded tyres. Look at them when you see a close-up of the cars. And that means to say that it is extremely difficult for the cars to hold the road with something like 500 horsepower and more in some cases, going through those smooth treaded tyres onto the wet surface. Alan Jones driving with a broken little finger, third. Reutemann fourth. Piquet fifth. Look back along the circuit. In sixth position, it's Pironi, and right behind him in seventh place, Bruno Giacomelli is closing up and pulling away from John Watson, number 7, who is eighth. And still, now ninth position is Patrick Tambay. He's come up through the field. Jacques Lafitte out of the race. Patrick Tambay, his teammate in the Talbot, now in ninth place. And that's Henton in the Tolman. Arnoux goes through second. And completing the lap, because they're coming up to the Parabolica again, Jones, and look at the water, the spray coming up off their tyres, and the yellow flag's waving. That means watch it, take it easy, not that they'll need telling. There's Brian Henton in the Tolman, well down, but he's still running and he's qualified. And that's the... And off goes Daly. Derek Daly spins off. That shows you how difficult the circuit conditions are, because Derek Daly actually relishes driving in the wet. And he's had two more off, and one of them's a Renault on the right. I can tell from the dark blue overalls of the driver who's walking towards the Armco that it is René Arnoux who was in second place, and I can't identify the white car that is obviously stalled on the circuit, except to say that it has to be one of the two Tyrrells, so it's either Chiva or Alboreto. And in the background you can see at the top right corner of your screen the crane, the mobile crane. It's getting ready. In fact, the cable is obviously already on, because I saw Arnoux's car move forward a few feet as the cable tightened, and they will lift Arnoux's car off whilst the marshals on the circuit, and there's another car off. That was Alboreto. As the race leader Prost goes, this is the Lesmo bends, and there is Prost going through. So that must be Chiva down there. It is. I just saw his red helmet. It's Eddie Chiva, who is stalled on the circuit, obviously trying to get his car going, and equally obviously failing to. And it's in a very, very dangerous situation. And Salazar is out of the race. Eliseo Salazar, the Chilean, out of the race. And so are quite a few other drivers, because the conditions are now very bad. You can see the water glistening on the Parabolica. And on lap 18, Alboreto, who spun off, is back in the running, and Piquet and Tambay. Tambay is right up as Alan Jones goes through now in second position. Alain Prost is leading. Jones there is in second place, and Bruno Giacomelli. There's the Alfa Romeo, number 23. The red car is up into third position. Piquet and Tambay battling for fourth. And Tambay's got it, or has he? Into the Retificio. Yes, it's Patrick Tambay in fourth position. Piquet fifth. Pironi sixth. And John Watson in seventh position. Well, what a change. Bruno Giacomelli, number 23, the 29-year-old driver from Milan. He's very, very close to his hometown, which is where the Alfa Romeo is made. He's up into third position. Patrick Tambay in the blue helmet there, higher than he has been in a Grand Prix since he joined Talbot, in fourth place, about to lap number 4, Alboreto. Out of the Lesmo bends, underneath the bridge, down to the third chicane, and watch Patrick Tambay nip through on the inside. He will go. No, he's taken the outside line, past Alboreto. And meantime, Nelson Piquet, who is in fifth position at the moment, there's Alan Jones going through. There is Giacomelli. Nelson Piquet fourth. Patrick Tambay fifth, according to the caption, but don't forget that's out of date, because we know that Tambay is ahead of Piquet, and Piquet has got number 28, Didier Pironi, right behind him, as they both go inside Alboreto, and Mario Andretti is up with them. And John Watson, there is John Watson behind Pironi and Piquet, and Piquet looks over his shoulder as if to say, you're not going to get through here, Didier. Let's see if he does. And he has. Didier Pironi has displaced Nelson Piquet, who is now sandwiched between John Watson. So we've got the turbocharged Ferrari leading the Brabham. And incidentally, Nelson Piquet is alleged to have just re-signed with his sponsor Parmalat for no less than $1.2 million for 1982. Patrick Tambay there in 4th position, Piquet 5th, Pironi in 6th. But Pironi's ahead again. All the way around the circuit, Pironi and Piquet are changing places. So down to 6th position goes Piquet, up to 5th goes Pironi, and still in 7th, there is the red and white Marlboro. And he's lost it! That's John Watson! John Watson, a very nasty one. Alboreto goes round the side, and that's... And they're going through... That's a very nasty one indeed. Let us hope that John Watson... He is... What a miracle. John Watson climbs out of his car looking completely unconcerned, and this is a replay. This is a replay of John Watson in the Marlboro MP4 going off. Watch him go backwards into the Armco. A great flash of flame as the fuel lines rupture, and then another flash of flame as probably the collector pot, the petrol collector pot goes up. Look at the gearbox and the wheels and the suspension flying across the road, and they hit Alboreto in the Tyrrell, and his car gives a flash of flame as it hits the Armco. There to the right is John Watson sliding backwards, and that is Carlos Reutemann, the World Championship leader, going through the gap. And Alboreto, number 4, is very clearly out of the race. Not surprising, because the whole of the back of his car will have been stoved in as Nigel Mansell goes through. And now the marshals have got the unenviable task of trying to remove that very hot gearbox, wheel and transmission unit, as the broken front half, the carbon fibre monocoque of John Watson's car, is on the other side of the circuit. And of course there will be oil. See the pool of oil which has come out of the gearbox just by the side of the circuit, and let us hope and pray that nobody hits that. Looking down from the helicopter, the car's going through, and that's a very good bit of marshalling. Well done. Congratulations to all the Italian marshals down there. They've got the circuit clear. There's no danger now, because that patch of oil is well off the racing line. So unless anybody loses the car as Watson did, and it's now actually drying out a bit as Alain Prost goes through. Let's see what the gap is. If the producer lets us look down the circuit, we'll see what the gap is between Prost and Jones in 2nd place. Prost has gone through. You saw how long ago it was. The next car should be Alan Jones. And it is. Alan Jones in 2nd place. There's Bruno Giacomelli with Patrick Tambay right behind him. Patrick Tambay has caught Giacomelli. This is a really inspired drive of Patrick Tambay, 32 years old from Cannes. There's Pironi in 5th position, ahead of Piquet in 6th place. Piquet seemingly at the moment, and this looks like another replay. It's another replay of the Watson accident. Now watch, he's gone up on the curbing. The back of the car swings left, right through 90 degrees, 180 degrees off the circuit, onto the grass, no way to recover it now, into the Armco, smashes the whole of the back of the car off, that flash of flame, and now the collector pot goes up. And Watson, meantime, is spinning on, totally out of control in the front half of the car, as Alboreto moves to the left to try and avoid the gearbox and fails to do so. Smashes into the Armco, wham, loses control of the car, crosses the course. Fortunately, nobody was close enough behind him to hit him, but Carlos Reutemann heads straight into the smoke, not knowing what's on the other side of it. But he's kept running. Carlos Reutemann kept running. And now we look down the long straight towards the Parabolica again to see who is going to come out. Alain Prost has gone through to complete another lap, and it's Alan Jones in 2nd place. Alan Jones, who has had such bad luck recently out of the Belgian Grand Prix, and he was out in Monaco and Spain and Germany, but he finished 3rd in Holland At the moment, he is fourth in the World Championship. Giacomelli still third. Tombe still fourth. Jarier there has been lapped. There in fifth position, up to fifth position, has gone Piquet. The caption is out of date because Pironi, as we look at him disappear up towards the Roger, is actually now in sixth position. And look again at Alain Prost, who is certainly the discovery of 1981. He drove for the Marlboro team in 1980, but he's right up at the front of Grand Prix racing now, on his way to his third Grand Prix, as we look at the battle continuing between Nelson Piquet and Didier Pironi for fifth position. And they're about to lap Jean-Pierre Jarier. They do it virtually as one. Jarier moves across in the brand new Osella. This is the first time that this car has raced. And now it looks to me as though Piquet is making his break. There goes Giacomelli through. Tombe has disappeared. Piquet is up into fourth place. Pironi is up into fifth place. I was looking for Patrick Tombe and I missed him. So as Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Osella disappears, it is now Alain Prost leading. It is Alan Jones in second place. It is Bruno Giacomelli in third. It's Piquet fourth and Pironi fifth, and that's Nigel Mansell's car looking a bit part worn. Look at the left-hand rear wheel, and it's obviously out of true. But now Alan Jones, who I know is driving in real pain with that little finger of his strapped to the third finger of his right hand, and he has to be very careful how he changes gear and how he moves the steering wheel. And that's Bruno Giacomelli, driving next to Watkins Glen of last year when he led the race of his life, up into third position. Fourth and fifth, Piquet and Pironi. In sixth position, in the background, in the second Alfa Romeo, behind number 23, Giacomelli, who is third, is Mario Andretti, the Italian-American, twice winner at Indianapolis. And across the line, completing another lap, go Piquet and Pironi. And there are now only 12 cars left in the race, and into the pits comes Giacomelli. Giacomelli, we're really having trouble in the Italian Grand Prix. New tyres are rolled forward. Perhaps Giacomelli is having wet tyres fitted as tyres that are right for the wet conditions. As Mario Andretti goes through perfectly all right. Then Jarier. There is Giacomelli back in the race already, so that didn't take very long. But of course he is now well out of the points, the World Championship points position, because you only get points for the first to sixth places. So now Alain Prost out on his own, well out in front, pacing himself, taking pit signals, leading Alan Jones. And past the broken car of Watson goes, and there is Alan Jones through again, and the position on lap 26, Jones second, Piquet up to third place, Pironi up to fourth, Andretti is now fifth, and back into the points after dropping right down to eighth position comes Carlos Reutemann. And the significant thing is that Piquet, who is leading the World Championship with Reutemann, is in third position, and Reutemann is in sixth place. And that means to say that if they finish in those positions, Piquet will be ahead of Reutemann in the World Championship at the end of the Italian Grand Prix. But there's still some time to go as we look at Alain Prost. Look at the gap, look down the circuit. Enormous gap. And next up, there is number one. Number one for the world champion, Alan Jones, who has lapped Brian Henton's Tolman. There goes the Tolman through. It's up into 10th position now, Brian Henton, in its first Grand Prix, as Giacomelli follows him round. And Giacomelli, of course, is a lap down behind Alan Jones now. So although Jones and Giacomelli are very close to each other on the circuit physically, they are separated by a full lap in the race. There's Giacomelli. And Giacomelli has lost the leadership as far as the Alfa Romeo cars are concerned in the Italian Grand Prix to his teammate Mario Andretti, who is well up on the leaderboard. There goes Giacomelli through. There's the Tolman again. Get a good look at it. You won't see much of it in this race because we're concentrating, and rightly so, on the leaders. And here is Nelson Piquet with, right behind him, Didier Pironi, third and fourth. Ahead of them, Alan Jones and Alain Prost. Behind them, in the Alfa Romeo, Mario Andretti, and Elio De Angelis, although we haven't seen him, is coming into the picture. Across the line, Piquet in the Brabham Ford V8 engine, 3 litres, unsupercharged, nearly 500 horsepower. The Ferrari's got a lot more horsepower, but it doesn't handle nearly as well. And Pironi is driving a fine race. Didier Pironi, who this year has had his highest position at Monaco, 4th position, is getting very close to matching that in the Italian Grand Prix, because that is exactly where he is now, in 4th place. And you can see that with the number of cars out of the race, they're getting spread round the circuit, but we're back again with the race leader in the Renault 30, the car that displaced the previous model, the Renault 20, this year, and in which Prost has won at France, and he won in Holland. He finished 2nd in Germany and 3rd in the Argentine. He's been out of a lot of races, but nevertheless, he is currently in 5th place in the World Championship and piling up the points. If Prost wins this race, he will get 9 points. Hinton again. Jones has gone through, and still together, with only a few car lengths between them, for 3rd position, Piquet and Pironi. And as you can see, the circuit, which was wet at the Parabolica, where the yellow flags were being waved, has dried out. And those drivers who fought their slipping motor cars and had to make the decision about whether to stay out or come in and lose time in order to fit tyres more suitable for the wet conditions, proved to themselves they've done the right thing, because now the circuit is quite dry. There is a dry track all the way round, and those slick tyres are giving them maximum adhesion. And now Brian Hinton has got in his mirrors the Brabham of Nelson Piquet, the World Championship joint leader with Carlos Reutemann. Piquet, who won the Italian Grand Prix last year. The gap between Piquet in 2nd position, Pironi in 3rd position, and Pironi, who is 4th, as you see, is 1.5 seconds. But when Piquet won last year, it was held the Italian Grand Prix at Imola. Prost, the leader. And now we look again, the camera swings and we look down the circuit, and there is Alan Jones, the man from Glenburn in the state of Victoria, where he owns an enormous cattle ranch, which he loves to go back to, and the circuit is completely clear. Now look at the caption. That was the position on lap 31, and you see that Prost is 18 seconds ahead of Jones, who is about 12 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is 5 seconds ahead of Pironi, who is 7 seconds ahead of Andretti, who is 2 seconds ahead of Reutemann, and there is Pironi. And he, in the Ferrari, in his first year with the Ferrari, is building up a lot of experience. And Nelson Piquet is building up a lot of points. He's on his way to 4 points in the World Championship, whereas Carlos Reutemann, who is down behind Piquet, is losing points all the time. So at the present moment, if these positions are maintained, I say again, Piquet will move into the lead in the World Championship with 2 Grand Prix still to go at the end of the Italian Grand Prix. First of all at Montreal and then at Las Vegas. Piquet, 3rd position. Think back to the people who have gone out. John Watson with that crash, Alboreto, Gilles Villeneuve, as round the right-hander at the first Lesmo and now the second Lesmo bend, which is a 140-mile-an-hour corner, goes rather went Nelson Piquet, because we're now back crossing the line with Alain Prost, who is about to lap Bruno Giacomelli, who, by the way, has been into the pits again. And he moves over and lets Alain Prost through. And there's Piquet. And now Piquet has really pulled right away from Didier Pironi. I suspect that the tyres on the Ferrari are going off. That is to say that they've overheated, they are losing adhesion, making the car difficult to handle. And that means to say that Carlos Reutemann now is starting to close up on Pironi. I'm watching this on the stopwatch, and the gap between Carlos Reutemann and Didier Pironi, who is in 4th position, is closing all the time. And it's terribly important to Reutemann. There he is, number 2, and you will notice next time you see, there it is, the Williams, it has no wing on the front of the nose, unlike every other car in the race. Now that calls for superhuman courage. It makes the car very difficult to handle, but it makes it faster down the straight. And Reutemann said to me in practice, I am determined to drive the race without any aerofoils on the front. And the distance now between Piquet and Reutemann is gaining, is 16 seconds. So let's watch that gap. Alain Prost leading, Alan Jones 3rd, Nelson Piquet, Alan Jones 2nd, Nelson Piquet is in 3rd position, and Alain Prost is, Carlos Reutemann is gaining all the time. Past Watson's car he goes. Carlos Reutemann has been accused of being a moody driver. He's always good, but when he's making a charge, he's absolutely fantastic. And there's Elio De Angelis, number 11, coming up through the field ahead of Andrea De Cesaris, who has lapped Brian Henton. A puff of flame from the turbo of the Tolman, because that is a turbocharged car like the Renault and the Ferrari. And here is Alain Prost. Well, the Frenchman, provided he can just keep going in the French Renault, and it's an all-French combination because it has Michelin tyres, if Frenchman Alain Prost can just keep going, he is bound to win the 3rd Grand Prix of his career in only his 2nd year of Formula One racing in World Championship events. And the gap between Prost and Reutemann, as you see there, is 57, just under a full minute. And if Alain Prost can pull out nearly a minute's lead over Carlos Reutemann, it gives you some indication of what a superlative driver this little Frenchman is. And he's well away now from Bruno Giacomelli. And the real question is Carlos Reutemann going to be able to catch Pironi? The gap there is 7 seconds between Pironi and Reutemann. Pironi, who is 4th, Reutemann, who is 5th. Is Carlos Reutemann going to be able to catch Pironi? If he does, can he get past him? And if he does get past Pironi, is he going to be able to do anything about the man that matters most to him in this race? And Prost slows right down as he comes out of the Roger just before the Lesmo bends. Probably just missed a gear and had to overbrake, but he slowed right down there, but he's back into racing speed again. And I was saying, the real question is, can Carlos Reutemann do anything about Pironi? He must get past him if he possibly can. and get past Nelson Piquet if he is to take the lead in the World Championship. Jean-Pierre Jarier, now the race leader. Look back and see if we don't go round the parabolica with Alain Prost, and we're not doing so. How far back Alan Jones is. There is Jones in second position. So that gives you the gap visually between Alain Prost, the race leader, and Alan Jones, who was starting to close up on Prost at a rate of about a second a lap, but he seems to have slowed down, and I noticed as he went past me on the previous lap that his engine note sounded a lot rougher than it crisply had at the beginning of the race. This is Derek Daly, who was ninth, has dropped right back now. There is Nelson Piquet. Now, how far behind Piquet, who is third, is Pironi? And what is much more important, how far behind Pironi? There is Pironi, and there is Reutemann. Now, Reutemann has caught Pironi. He's right with him. And Carlos Reutemann is now challenging for fourth place, and he's coming right up alongside the Frenchman in the Ferrari. And behind Reutemann is Mario Andretti. So fourth, fifth and sixth are very close together. The race, which was starting to get a bit static, has come alive again. Incidentally, in seventh place, it's Elio De Angelis. In eighth position, in the second of the two Marlboro MP4s, is Andrea De Cesaris, and Reutemann challenges again. It's 3 points for fourth position, it's 2 points for fifth position, and at the moment Carlos Reutemann is in for 2 points. He wants to move up one to get with Piquet. Mario Andretti keeping them in sight in the Alfa Romeo. Let's follow the Ferrari and the Williams around Monza. Into the Roger. Now up to the Lesmo bends. The first right, fourth gear. Still in fourth gear. Nearly 11,000 RPM, 140 miles an hour. Sneaking up into fifth gear. This is as they go down past the Seraglio, up to it's 180 miles an hour, just before they hit that left-hander. And Reutemann has closed right now. Now he's got a chance, because Pironi has got to get past Derek Daly, who he's about to lap for the second time, and Daly moves over and lets them both through. But in the process, Carlos Reutemann has closed up another car length on the fourth place man, Didier Pironi. There's the sixth place man, Mario Andretti, in the background, and Reutemann's going to try and drive right round the outside of Pironi. He'll never do it at the Parabolica. If he does that, he'll be absolutely superhuman, and good as he is, he's not that. Out of the Parabolica, but now Reutemann is in a perfect position to slipstream Pironi down the long straight to the Rettificio, the chicane, close right up on him and probably take him as they come out. No, Pironi's used all the 580 horsepower of the Ferrari, and yes, Reutemann closes right up at the left, the right, the second left, and then the second right. Now he's in a position to pass. He could take him as they come up to the Roger on braking. He's round the Grand Curve now. This is his chance. This is the chance for Carlos Reutemann on braking to take Didier Pironi. He's going to do it. He's right up alongside him. And Carlos Reutemann is now up into fourth position. Can he do anything about the gap between himself and Nelson Piquet, who is third? Alan Jones is still second. Alain Prost still leads. And already Carlos Reutemann is pulling away from Pironi. Let's look at it again. Reutemann comes out of the slipstream of Pironi's Ferrari, moves right up alongside him, holds his braking until the last possible moment, knowing that the Ferrari does not handle anything like as well as his Williams car, gets a full car length in front of him before they hit the left-hander at the Roger, accelerates away and has gained a place and points. And that's the race leader, Alain Prost. This is lap 40, this is the race leader, and it is Alain Prost. Now, is Alan Jones getting closer, or is he dropping back? The answer is he's dropping back. Reutemann is now well clear. Look in that short distance how much Carlos Reutemann, now that he has forced his way past Didier Pironi and is up into fourth place, has pulled away from the Ferrari. And Mario Andretti is right up with Pironi, and that's De Angelis in seventh position. Piquet, third, 4 points. Reutemann, fourth, 3 points. If they finish in the positions that they're in now, Piquet will be leading the World Championship by 1 point only. Reutemann is gaining on Piquet. Look at that. He came out of the Ascari left-hander much closer to Piquet than he did on the previous laps that we've seen. So Carlos Reutemann, according to my stopwatch, is gaining on Nelson Piquet with 12 laps to go. 12 giri al termine, the 12 laps to go at Monza in the Italian Grand Prix, and with Alain Prost leading Alan Jones, both of them secure in their positions if they can keep going in first and second places. Nelson Piquet there third, but his third place is starting to be challenged by that man, Carlos Reutemann. Didier Pironi still fifth in the Ferrari, Mario Andretti still sixth in the Alfa Romeo, and in seventh and eighth places no change. Elio De Angelis, John Player Special Lotus 87, and Andrea De Cesaris, and the gap between Piquet and Reutemann just under 9 seconds. Reutemann gaining. I wonder if Piquet's tyres are starting to go off. Piquet has 13-inch tyres on his front wheels, and Reutemann has 15-inch tyres on his front wheels, and under some circumstances that can give a handling advantage, and that may be just making all the difference. Now look again, look back and see when Reutemann appears. If he appears before Piquet hits that dark patch, he's gained, and he does so. Well, it was just under 9 seconds. I would say visually that it's less than 9 seconds now. Carlos Reutemann has got Piquet in sight. He will be getting pit signals. He will know what the situation is. And now Mario Andretti in the red and white car behind Pironi is gaining. And Elio De Angelis is taking Andretti. Elio De Angelis, and Andretti's in trouble. De Angelis has gone up into sixth place in the Lotus. There he goes, round the Parabolica. Well, it really is coming to life at the end of the Italian Grand Prix, because we're not so very far away from the finish flag now. It's a 52-lap race, and Elio De Angelis is up into sixth position with Mario Andretti seemingly in trouble. Maybe the same trouble that affected Bruno Giacomelli, his teammate, earlier on. And there's Andretti into the pits. Well, that's bad luck, because since Gérard Ducarouge, the brilliant French team manager, was fired by Ligier and joined Alfa Romeo only a month ago, he has worked wonders with the Italian car. And I know Mario Andretti and Bruno Giacomelli were hopeful of doing well in front of their home crowd, but it was obviously not to be. Doing well, but not in front of his home crowd, and he should care. There is Alain Prost, still leading, as he has done since the lights changed from red to green, on his way to his second Grand Prix win in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks to be exact. Prost leading Jones by 10 seconds. Jones 36 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet. And there is the gap between Piquet and Reutemann. That's Piquet in front. That's Jarier in the blue car. And there is Carlos Reutemann. And if that's not less than 9 seconds, I'm a Dutchman. There goes Piquet. And Piquet, just as Reutemann is, there's Reutemann. Just as Reutemann is, will be getting pit signals. He'll know that he's losing out to Reutemann, but he's got a very, very cool, mature head on those 29-year-old shoulders of his, has Nelson Piquet. And he will be pacing himself, watching his pit signals. But whatever the trouble is, he seems not to be able to do anything about it, because the gap is now halved from just under 9 to just under 5 seconds. And Reutemann has definitely got the chance to close right up on Piquet in the closing laps of the race. But whether or not, having caught him, and look at the gap now, he will be able to get past him is quite another thing. Because I don't imagine that Nelson Piquet will be going out of his way to make it easy for Carlos Reutemann to get past. There were the positions on lap 49, and you see the gap between Piquet and Reutemann was then 5 seconds, now just under it. Prost is only 9 seconds ahead of Jones, who's obviously making a late charge, and Jones is some 35 seconds ahead of Piquet. So the first two are pretty secure. There is Alain Prost. And don't forget that Elio De Angelis is in 5th position now. He's got ahead of Didier Pironi. So it's Prost, Jones, Piquet, Reutemann, De Angelis, Pironi. And Alain Prost will now be hearing noises in the cockpit of his car, wondering if all is well. The gap between Piquet and Reutemann is down a bit more, but not all that much more, as Alain Prost comes towards us, down to the parabolica again. Smoothly around that long right-hander, out into the top straight again. And Alain Prost goes through to start his last lap, the 52nd lap in the Italian Grand Prix, almost home, because he now only has under 3.5 miles to go. You can see the crowd starting to go home despondently in the background, with the knowledge that Ferrari have not done well. But in the Renault pits will be Jean Sage, the team manager, Gérard Larousse, the head man of the racing outfit, Marie-Claude Beaumont, and all the Renault mechanics waiting to greet Alain Prost home, the 3rd Grand Prix win in his career. There is Alan Jones, who's dropped back. He's far more than 10 seconds, and I'm sure that there's something wrong with his engine. It has been rough, and it seems to be getting rougher, but I think it's good for another lap. There's Giacomelli going through, well out of the points, but back in the running in the race. So now, is Nelson Piquet going to be able to stave off Carlos Reutemann is the only real question left in the race. And there's somebody who's blown his engine, and it's Piquet! And that's Reutemann behind him. Piquet's blown his engine. Incredible! This is unbelievable. On the last lap, Nelson Piquet's blown his engine, and Reutemann goes past him and takes 3rd position. And Reutemann, in the process, is now leading the World Championship automatically. Well, what an incredible situation. Nelson Piquet touring home. Is he even going to finish the race? And if he does not finish the race, will he finish in the points? Well, here is Alain Prost winning. I almost missed him in the excitement. Alain Prost. And there go the Renault team bursting out onto the circuit. The salute from Alain Prost. A wonderful drive. Well, it's his 3rd Grand Prix win. Now, where is Alan Jones? He's been dropping back. Is he going to be all right with Nelson Piquet? Yes, he is. There is Jones finishing in 2nd position and getting himself 6 points in the World Championship at the same time. So he will, I think, I'm trying to do some quick mental arithmetic while I talk to you, and I think Alan Jones will move up on the World Championship table. We'll soon know. And there is Reutemann in 3rd position. Oh, wonderful drive. Carlos Reutemann now undoubtedly leads the World Championship, and cruel, bitter luck for Nelson Piquet. He is touring off the circuit, and it's a moot point whether he is going to finish in 6th position or not. I think he will just do it, because Elio De Angelis and Andrea De Cesaris has gone missing. Well, it's all getting a bit fraught and worrying at the moment. I can tell you for sure that Alain Prost has won. Here he is, completing his touring lap, accompanied by the 2nd place man, Alan Jones, and into the pits. to receive, I'm sure, a rapturous reception. And there is the confirmation. Jones second, Reutemann third, De Angelis fourth, Pironi fifth, and Nelson Piquet does get that 1 point for sixth position. Now, the World Championship position is that Carlos Reutemann is now 3 points ahead of Piquet, with Jones and Prost tying for third position, Lafitte only 3 points behind in fifth position, and I reckon that any one of those 5 men could still win the World Championship with 2 races to go. 9 points for each of those races, and the next of them is going to be in 2 weeks' time across the Atlantic at Montreal. We're going to be there, and I hope you're going to join us to watch it, because the World Championship is really coming to a climax.